Welcome to the Startup Grind.
My name's Evan Piazza. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited tonight. I'm excited to be part of 43 North Week. With that, I'll give it to John to talk about 43 North.
All right, look at everybody. This is great. All these entrepreneurs and investors and business people out here. It looks unbelievable. My name is John Gavigan. I'm the executive director of 43 North, and this is the official launch of the 43 North Week, and we just could not be more excited. So I'd like to welcome all of you to another iteration of the Startup Grind. And Evan, thank you to you and your team for having us here and allowing us to participate in not only in your event, but really helping us launch what will be one of the great events in the Western New York community of this year. So to all of you who have helped us organize these events and have supported us, I see the whole First Ward contingency, the Hydrogen family back there are just doing a whole bunch of stuff. So thank you in the other room, but all the supporters and all the people that have helped us put together this week, on behalf of me, the team, and the board, I really do appreciate it. So as I said, this is the launch of the 43 North Week, and tonight is the first night. It's the Startup Grind. We've got a great guest tonight, Patrick Finan, and we're talking about, all right, Patrick, very cool. Doing a lot of cool things with his company and represents us really well, so we appreciate being a part of this tonight. On Friday is the Startup Weekend, which is a 54-hour straight, insane event where aspiring entrepreneurs are taking their ideas to a business, right? So in a 54-hour period of time, it goes from idea to launching a business. And actually, one of our semifinalists this year actually hailed from one of the Startup Weekends, actually. Right, Clark?
That's true.
Amazing. So it's an amazing event, very intense. I encourage you to take a part in it, and I'll be judging, I think, with a few other people here in the room. On Monday is one of the special events we have going on. It's called the Think Big event, where we have female and minority entrepreneurs sharing their stories on how they've achieved success in their own business. So very important to us. We do a lot of outreach and really widen the net of entrepreneurs throughout our Western New York community, and we're very proud of this event. I would really encourage you to show up. I think we attracted almost 200 people to the event in May, and it was very successful. So please join us for that. On Tuesday, we take a little bit of a break. We do ping pong diplomacy. So we've got 32 ping pong players coming from all sorts of businesses in the community and entrepreneurs, etc. So we'll see who is crowned the startup champion for ping pong in the Western New York community. You will have to dethrone me, which is great because I won the first iteration. It was by design, by the way. So hopefully one of you is a really good ping pong player with Sean Heidinger. Maybe we'll get another crack at this year. Daniel Cheney, I don't know if he's here, but I beat Daniel in the finals, and it's still one of my fondest moments. Wednesday is the Bright Buffalo Niagara event, one of the greatest entrepreneur events we have in this community. We pair entrepreneurs with the investment community here locally and from the region. And it's a very exciting event because we showcase the best of our companies to investors around the community, and it's wonderful. In fact, Damon John from Shark Tank, everybody know Damon John from Shark Tank, right? He's going to be our keynote speaker that night, so a really cool event. Please join us for that. It wraps up on Thursday. That's our finals event. So we had 11,400 companies apply to this year's competition from 117 countries. Tomorrow, we will be announcing who the final 11 are. We'll be doing it on a Periscope, we'll be sending out press releases, and it'll be a big deal for all of us and for them because it's about to change their lives. Next Thursday, they will be pitching in front of the world their business ideas and competing to share a piece of $5 million with the grand prize winner accepting $1 million to help them accelerate their business right here in Buffalo, New York. So we're really excited about all the events. Please go to our website. If you haven't signed up for some of these events, please do. And with that, Evan, thank you for having us. Man, this is great. 43, the number 43north.org. Thanks for the question.
coming for that ping pong championship belt. Marty, you want to launch New York? Marty Levine, launch New York. He's going to talk about something that's pretty cool.
I will be brief though, because the real star is right here. It's all about entrepreneurship, and an event like tonight, we all love to be here. Everything going on this whole next week is amazing. We all know Steve Case was here with Rise of the Rest. This is incredible, but for anybody who's an entrepreneur, you all know it's a journey, and that's what Launch New York is all about. It's the journey of providing you free mentoring and funding. Okay, we're a nonprofit organization who provides these services. We love the fact that you're growing our industry and our startup community. How do we do it? Obviously, we fundraise. So we're going down the path of the new way of fundraising, and today we just announced that we have launched our first crowdfunding campaign, and we would love you all to take a look and, more importantly, share it. The purpose of the campaign is as much to raise the visibility to the rest of the world who's not in this room tonight about what's going on here as it is to raise funds. So in fact, any of you who have attended Bright Buffalo Niagara in the past might remember a company called GiveGab. Well, GiveGab actually is a platform originally for volunteering. Well, now they pivoted, and it's crowdfunding for nonprofits. So we were really delighted to work with a former client of Launch New York. GiveGab, which is headquartered in Ithaca, has done some terrific fundraising, and they're doing some tremendous work with Days of Giving with states like Mississippi and others around the country. So we're really thrilled to use that platform. So take a look at GiveGab, GIVEGAB.com, and just type in Launch New York, and you'll see the campaign. We would love you to share that, because that visibility is all about what will be the journey that supports folks like Patrick and others. And we're actually even using a marketing firm who is a former client as well, called Good Monster. This is the excitement. Our clients can actually help drive this economy forward in every way you can imagine. So we'd love you to take a look, and frankly, more importantly, just share it. Share the word. Guess what? We all know what's going on here. The rest of the community, even in Buffalo, New York, does not know half of the excitement that we have here. So please spread the word about all the 43 North events. This week has wonderful opportunities. And how many people do you hear from who say, I want to get involved? And you say, just look online, and most of these events are low or no cost. Just come down. We're all welcoming, right? Is this a welcoming crowd? Yeah! Woo!
Thanks, Monty. Oh man, there's always someone. Dig. You're in Dig. It's a co-working space, but it's much more than that. It's networking, mentors. They have people that can help you with legal stuff, with business stuff. Your first day is free. It's a cool space, cool people. Definitely recommend checking it out. Nickel City Graphics, Neil Carroll does a great job with the videos. If you know anybody who needs video for business, for online, definitely talk to Neil. And Launch New York, you just heard from Marnie, Hutch and Russ. Jordan, talk to Jordan, cool guy, very involved. Martin Davison, public relations. John, Matt, do a great job. You help promote a lot of things, we appreciate that. Shirt Outfitters, they made these cool shirts. If you need any shirt printing or anything like that, check them out. Colgan Law, thanks for the beer again. Another great law firm. Matthew Pelkey, great guy to talk to in the Buffalo startup community as well. All right, then next one. Oh, that was the wrong one. 43 North. Clark, talk about Founders Institute.
Hi, my name is Clark Dever. I'm the director of Founder Institute Buffalo. What is Founder Institute? It's a global entrepreneur training program. We take employees, we train you how to be an entrepreneur. It's also a virtual startup accelerator. We take you from idea stage, where you're just iterating, you have a good idea, but you're not sure how to launch it. We bring you all the way through business formation and get you ready to pitch. So by the time you graduate, you'll be ready to raise early stage money. The program started out of Silicon Valley, has a place in over 100 cities around the world on 6 different continents, so we're really lucky to be bringing it here to Buffalo. And 80% of the companies that graduate from Founder Institute are still in operation, and over 45% of them have raised funding. So those are really great numbers. So the program definitely works. It's a 14-week program, 3 hours a night, 1 night a week. But the magic of it, so we have this great curriculum, that's proven, but it's taught by local mentors. So John Spitz, Dan Giganti, and I went out and found the best business leaders we could, former founders, CEOs, leaders in all their field, and they come in and they teach on the classes that they're specialists in. So you get to gain an incredible network over a few months that will help you throughout the lifetime of your business. So anyways, if you want to learn more, fi.co/join, or join us November 6th here for the 43 North Z80 Happy Hour. We'll be right next door. So that's November 6th at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Awesome. It's a serious list of mentors and people that are already signed up to help you. We got next. Johnny, we'll talk more about Buffalo Startup Weekend.
How many people here have an idea for a business or want to work on an idea? Raise your hand. Come on, raise your hand. So all of you are going to sign up for Buffalo Startup Week, and I see a lot of familiar faces. Evan went to it, Tom Murdoch went to it, he now works at the Western New York Innovation Hotspot. I went to it, that's how I got involved in this whole community. It's real open arms, but if you have an idea, you get 60 seconds to pitch it, and if you're like me, you're a business guy, but you never have a developer or a designer, this connects you to those people. It also connects you to the business folks that are in this community. It's $50, but because you're here, Caps Lock Startup Grind is a ticket code. It'll be $25. 6 meals, they're good meals, a t-shirt, and it really, it's a 54-hour event, but you're going to learn a lot, be connected to the right people, and it will change your life. It's seriously a life-changing event of mine. I can guarantee you I wouldn't be here if I didn't go to a startup weekend, so I highly recommend you go. Thanks.
Awesome. Definitely worth checking out. All right, now we can start the startup grind. Thank you all for being here, and that's a lot of great information. But I'm really excited. It's honestly been over a year since I've been trying to get Patrick on stage, and he's been kicking butt in the meantime. Patrick Finan, let's start. Let's make some noise for Patrick. You got it. He's got it. He's done this before. Thank you for being here, Patrick. Let's start basic. What are you involved with, and how did you get here?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all, and thanks to all the sponsors. This is really exciting, and I'm really excited for the second year of 43 North, so I hope to see a lot of you guys there next Thursday. I think that's really exciting. So I'm involved in 2 companies. Block Club, which is a branding and strategy agency. I founded it with Brandon Davis in 2007. And then another company called City Dining Cards that I founded with Brandon Davis and Marilyn Roach in 2011. City Dining Cards is a customer loyalty tech company.
Let's talk about Black Club. How did you start? Was it an idea? Do you see an opportunity? What were the early days of Black Club like?
Okay, so Block Club got started when I think I had the idea when I was about 19 or something, and I done like a year and a half of college, came back to Buffalo. My mom was opening up, who's here? My mom. Was doing opening up another retail store. I grew up, my teenage years working in a retail store in East Aurora, so she's opening up a store in Elmwood, and I ended up working there, and then started dating this guy, Brandon Davis, who is now my fiance, and we've been together for 9 years. And we had the idea to start a business within like the first 5 days of dating each other or something. So the idea was that we wanted to start this magazine that would talk about the great people, businesses, and organizations that were helping to make Buffalo a better place and the Rust Belt region a better place at a time when the resurgence in the community was just kind of crawling along, just in its infancy, but we were really excited to be here. So Block Club got started by 2 people who had just started dating, and for that reason alone probably should have failed.
So you experienced some success at Black Club. How did you scale the business? What were the early days like? How did you find your first customer?
Okay, so Block Club got started as a magazine that is now retired, actually, which I think is really interesting because the whole thing that started my career as an entrepreneur, business owner, that started our company is now no longer in existence. So when Block Club got started, we had this idea for a print pub that would come out 6 times a year. It would be really well designed and tell these stories of these great people in the region. So the way we actually got started is because no one would take us seriously at the time. The community of supporting a young business owner has changed dramatically in the last 8 to 10 years. So why are you doing this? Why are you here? Why would you want to stay here? You're never going to make it. Was what you would hear from people outside of your close circle. So that still exists in some ways, but it's changed dramatically. So what we did at the time, talking about bootstrapping a company, we had $5,000 saved up, and an American Express credit card that I think I had too large of a credit limit because I lied about how much money I made. And so we had that, and then we printed a 12-page mock version of what Block Club magazine would look like, and I just saw it a couple months ago when we had our retirement party for the magazine after 40 issues, and it is the ugliest thing I've ever laid my eyes on. So somehow that 12-page ugly thing that we created using the computers at UB and with a designer named Billy Sandoran-Aston, who with his husband just moved back to Buffalo, which is really exciting, good win for the region, but created this booklet, and we went to businesses that I knew from working in my mom's store on Main Street in East Aurora and on Elmwood Avenue, right around Potomac. So just the other shop owners that I had met, the restaurant owners and whatnot, and people who Brandon and his family knew. And we said, hey, we have this idea for a publication, and it's going to be really cool, and here's kind of what it's going to look like. And the ads cost $700 to $1,000, so can you buy one for us? And by the way, you have to prepay for it. So we ended up selling somewhere between $13,000 and $15,000 of ads. We got the cash up front, and then suddenly we had $20,000 to start a company, which we ran out of our apartment, used the computers at UB, and grew from there. And so that's how the whole company got started. And I mean, we didn't. That was the money that we had. And so what ended up happening is after Block Club had been around for a while, and I remember getting through our 3rd issue and couldn't believe we were still around, and then our 5th issue, and then our 10th issue. Somewhere in a year and a half in, our design started to get noticed, and we always were pushing for better. Block Club's tagline is "We want better," and we really strive for that every day. What happened is that I think it was My Bomb Fine Arts in East Aurora, they got in touch with us and they said, hey, we really like what you're doing for our ads in the magazine. Could you consider redoing our logo or doing some business cards or whatever? And we're all designers. It was at the time me, Brandon, and Ben Siegel, who's still with Block Club as the lead copywriter. So we ended up starting this kind of by accident agency-ish thing, although we had never called it. It's graphic design services, whatever, really cheap, really cheap. But we needed the money and we had the time. We had so much time back then. We were just talking about that the other day. We had so much time. If someone walks into my office now and it's not scheduled, I have an aneurysm because I have so little time now. So we just had so much time, and we started designing stuff. And then a couple years in, we thought, man, this is a really great idea. We should really actually pursue this. We got the first big thing that allowed us to scale, to answer your question, was we hired a designer. The first designer we hired that was brought in for the sole purpose of designing for clients, and I started selling the services. And I remember our revenue went from $250,000 to $500,000 in 1 year. And then we said, oh, this is interesting. And so we started to make hires in the design department, brought in Steve Soroka, Julian Malloy, Tim Stazak, and really started to focus on growing the business. Today, Dave Horish runs business development, and Dave's an incredible member of our team, and his approach, and the reason we've been able to scale so quickly, his approach is a very strategic approach and a very offensive, aggressive, not offensive in a bad way. we don't sit around and wait for businesses to knock on our door. We try to bring solutions to clients who might not even know we exist. And that's allowed us to work with, internationally with TED conferences, the United Nations. Locally, we've done many of the kind of cool new restaurants in town, Black Sheep, Buffalo Proper, just branded My Brother's Distillery, Tommy Rotter. We work with great not-for-profits like Units and the City Mission and big clients like the Buffalo City Mission. So I think, we're one of the larger, we're a small agency, but we're one of the larger agencies in town. I think we're one of the smallest large agencies, if that makes sense, in terms of revenue. But we have 11 people, it's a great team, and so we've just constantly pushed for better, while being very aggressive in our pursuit of business and not sitting on our asses waiting for the phone to ring.
There was a lot of great information in there. One thing that I find interesting is you refer to all your employees and your hires by name. So, we hired a person, you knew who you hired. How do you hire those type of people that are going to grow with you and enable your startup to grow?
So if we're talking about the companies are very different in their how they've grown. So let's talk about Block Club first because I think it's a little different. So Block Club is a very slow and steady growth. We don't believe in hiring for clients. We won't do that. So if a client asks us or says, hey, we want to give you more work, we won't allow any one client to take more than 20% of our billable time. And that's because we don't want to be a company that hires and fires. And that's really bad for morale and really bad for team building. So of Block Club's team, we've fired one person in 8 years or 9 years. And besides that, no one else has left Block Club since they've joined. So we've made painstakingly careful efforts. Brandon has done an incredible job in building the design team. I really work with Dave on a regular basis, and Dave was actually started at City Dining Cards and was my printing rep at City Dining Cards, banging on my door like when we had an office on Elmwood Avenue. And he was like the only printing rep that didn't have a white mustache with a cigarette stain on the area. So I was like, well, this guy might get it. So just been very careful. When we have a design position open, which is rare, we typically get somewhere between 200 and 400 applications, and we narrow it down to maybe 5 or 10 people, and then we really look at we bring the final couple people in for a week, and we're very clear on what's accepted and what's not accepted, and it takes people about a year to get acclimated to Block Club. There's a designer named Ryan, who's one of our newer team members, and it wasn't until like a year in, because he had started right after our annual retreat, that he kind of was like, oh, I totally get it now. And then he was working like a maniac, like there like 12 hours a day, and he just hadn't quite hadn't figured out how to work within the parameters of the company because it's such a tight-knit team. So it takes a while, but that allows us to do great work because the trust is there 150%.
Let's talk about City Dining Cards. So you're working at Black Club, that's going good. Where did City Dining Cards come into the picture?
Okay, so both companies were completely flukes, and Dave reminds me of this all the time. He always says hey, if you were we probably wouldn't start Block Club or City Dining Cards today the way we did back then, and I couldn't agree with him more. So again, when you have a lot of time and you have imagination, and you're like, I could make $20,000 doing this or $5 doing that, you do it. And so City Dining Cards got started in the fall, late summer, early fall of 2010, though it wasn't formed as a company until 2011. So we had this idea, a team at Block Club had this idea for a product that would help drive locals into the great local businesses, restaurants specifically, that were popping up around the city. Again, so company started 2007, 2010, 11, okay, we're starting to pick up some pace, stuff's happening a little bit more in Elmwood Village, Allentown area, blah, blah, blah. The negativity's waning a little bit. Let's drive people in, because when you spend money at a local business, 4 times more money stays in your local community, which is really important when we're talking about supporting local economy, startups, and besides the fact that supporting local businesses is great so we don't have homogenized cities all over our gigantic country. So you don't have cities like Tampa, Charlotte, you know, these cities that are just like suburban sprawl cities that are the same no matter where you go. So how do you preserve the character of neighborhoods? Businesses, local businesses are great. And for all of us who are in the products and service space, local businesses are more likely statistically to work with vendors like us as companies, supporting the local accounting firms, the payroll companies, the marketing firms, the printing companies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, how could we as a company that was committed to, you know, helping our community in Western New York, how could we build a product that would drive people into these businesses? And we thought, hey, why not like give a discount to these restaurants that would be simple, local, simple, universal, easy to understand, and we'll sell them to retailers. So the idea actually came from my sister, who saw something like it in New York City. All the team at Block Club started to call their friends who owned restaurants, all the people we worked with. Steve Soroka has this great story about like calling Salvatore's when Ross Salvatore still worked at Salvatore's, and he had like an apartment in his restaurant or upstairs or something, and his phone was wired up to his apartment, and so like Steve woke him up from a nap and still got him to sign up, so that was a big victory. But we brought the product to market. Dave was our printing rep. We've got them printed in Rochester, and we sold, I think, 12 or 15,000 units at $20 a piece in somewhere between like October 15th when they came out and like January 15th. And so in January, we were like, damn, we're onto something. And Marilyn Roach, who's the COO at City Dining Cards and my partner there, Marilyn had been my advisor at the Small Business Development Center, was ready to make a move. We just, you know, seemingly struck gold with this product, and I was able to convince Marilyn to come join the team. And that's when City Dining Cards was started. So it started at Block Club as an idea. We tried it, it worked, and then we started the company.
Was City Dining Cards bootstrapped at first?
I got a good story for this one. Okay, so, we just sold like 50, you know, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of product. Wow.
Good job.
Yeah, it was like, I remember my mom, I just called my mom and I was like, Mom, guess what? And, you know, my mom was my therapist at the time, I think. So, hey, we just sold all these, we just made like hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this. And she says, are you kidding me? Effing coupons, Patrick? Effing coupons? You know? And it was funny because overnight more people knew about this new product that no one knew about Block Club at the time. So here we had been like printing this magazine, like breaking, like, you know, our backs, like staying up all night producing this magazine that no one knew about. And certainly at the time no one knew our agency work. And then this coupon product was like, so very frustrating, but also great. So what we did is I was in CEL at the time, and it was like, 2010-11 class. And that's a UB Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership core program, which is great if you're a business owner who's been around for a while and looking to like take your business to the next level. So I was doing that program. A couple of my classmates saw the success of City Dining Cards and had business interests in other cities, and actually set up like a distributorship agreement with us where they bring this concept into 3 cities. It was Pittsburgh, Rochester, and Indianapolis, and Phoenix, actually 4 cities, Phoenix. And so we were like, oh man, this is great. We based the price on the amount we sold in Buffalo, relevant to the population of the metropolitan statistical area, applied that percentage to the new markets, and okay, suddenly we're billing these distributors like, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're like, oh, awesome, this is great. We're gonna be able to hire a whole team. We hired Dave. Dave left his job at EPI in Rochester, came to Buffalo, and hired a few other people, rented more office space on Elmwood, et cetera, et cetera. And everything seemingly was fine until it wasn't. And about a year later, the entire distributorship deal that we had put together fell apart. Essentially, they basically like declared bankruptcy of sort, or just were like, hey, this didn't work, and you can't get blood out of a stone. So I've realized a contract is only as good as the people you make the contract with, despite how good your attorneys are. Life lesson. Very expensive lesson. So we ended up, we'd already hired a bunch of people. We'd already expanded into like 4 new markets, Boston being one of them, Syracuse being one of them, and now we had to take over and clean up the mess that was left behind from our early partners. So we had to, and this is like crazy, City Dining Cart's insane trajectory to where it is now. Victory early on, huge seeming failure. We had to raise $350,000 in private loans at 12% interest, and we probably should have defaulted on these loans because it wasn't until a Hail Mary pass paid off in 2013. But the severity, I mean, just so you guys understand, like I was personally guaranteed, Brandon was personally guaranteed, Marilyn was, her husband was, my parents were, Brandon's parents were. I mean, would have lost my house, or our house, could have affected Marilyn and Dave severely. It probably would have put Block Club out of business. So that is the stress that City Dining Cards was under for a 3-year period between late 2011, early 2012, and essentially like 2014.
How did you know that that was the right decision? Like, what made you say we're going for it versus we gave it a shot, didn't work out, let's do something else?
Again, like things I wouldn't do again. But so I remember my attorney Dave saying, he's like, when we were signing this, he said, I know how nervous you are, I know how scared you are, I know what's on the line. This will be in your career one of the smallest things you ever do in your life, and I think that was like enough to be like, okay, I'll sign it. You know, I think also I didn't have a whole lot to lose at the time. I think people I really cared about had a lot to lose, and but I also always knew that I would make sure that whatever it took, I would, even if it went belly up, and I really didn't think it would. I think I was a little naive at the time, but I also would have done anything to pay back the people that affected too, you know? So, to answer your question, I think it was like, this is a great idea. What could go wrong, you know? Let's do it. It's only 2 houses.
So, it went well, which is awesome. And then you eventually raised private equity money to launch an app. So maybe walk through that process. You know, why raise private equity and decide to launch an app?
Well, I should say it didn't go well originally. For a couple of years, we had high staff turnover, burned out key staff people. It was very frustrating too, because meanwhile I had Block Club on the other hand that was like, as I described, this very different, slow, steady company, and City Dining Cards was expanding into new cities and hiring people, and people were leaving and people were quitting, and we didn't understand why. And we were working in retail, retailers like Whole Foods and Barnes & Noble, and like, you know, people in some cities would buy the product, people in other cities wouldn't buy the product. And so to make a long story short, it was an insane roller coaster ride. And what happened in the final moments, essentially before we would have had to pay back our loan and essentially declare bankruptcy as a company and gone out of business, is that we're able to land a very large contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York to develop their 2-for-1 discount program, which I don't know if any of you got as Blue Cross members last year. That's a City Dining Cards product, and that is what started to change the company, because people realized that we were more than just like restaurant coupons. So, money, right?
Money in
Hard money. All right. So we've raised about $3 million in the last like 15 months, and it came in 2 rounds, a Series A round, and a bunch of the Buffalo Angels are here tonight. So these guys really stuck their necks out for City Dining Cards. it was still a big risk, and believed in what we were doing and the promise of the leadership team and the staff at City Dining Cards to deliver mainly on the Blue Cross Blue Shield product, which we knocked out of the park, and start to transition the company from this analog company to a digital company, into a tech company. And Kevin Christner, who, I don't think Kevin's here, but Kevin is with Richmond Capital Partners, and Kevin was the first angel who really, I call him like the whip, he like whipped the rest of the angels together, and we were able to raise about $750,000 in our first round. So with that money, we took, we hired people. We had like half of a person working there besides me and Marilyn. I hadn't gotten paid in like 3 or 4 years, and we at Block Club is essentially like life support for City Dining Cards, doing all the design work, paying the rents, blah blah blah. So first we were like, wow, now we can pay people and build a team, and we can deliver, and we can start to build the process of like building the minimum viable product of City Dining Cards, which is what's basically available now. So if any of you guys want to do me a solid, go to the App Store, download City Dining Cards right now. It's free to download and use, and let us know what you think about it. So that was the first round, and that got us to about this summer.
How did you develop the app? Was it developed internally? Did you contract it out? A lot of people say like, oh, I have this idea for an app, I want to build it. What did that process look like for you? Or what did you learn from that process that you could share with others?
Yeah, so we probably did it a very wrong way, but we also didn't, I come from an agency background, and so agency stuff is super kind of rigid. I mean, you can have lots of free-form ideation and whatnot, but it's very much, there's a delivery date and certain things have to be approved along the way, and it's, Block Club is like a perfectionist agency, so we have a very rigid process that we have in place, and I took that process into City Dining Cards, which was a mistake. So what we ended up doing is our VP of sales had worked with a guy who lived in Cleveland, and we were like, oh yeah, we'll just develop this app with a guy in Cleveland, and it's only going to cost us like $10,000 or something. Great, this seems great. We'll save a bunch of money. Everyone will be happy. So halfway through it, it's not working, and I called up Robert Mays from Argyle in a panic and was like, we have to deliver this app in like 5 minutes, and you need to help me, please. And so we ended up hiring Argyle. I think some of the guys from Argyle are here. We ended up hiring them as our technology partner, and we built the first version of City Dining Cards with Argyle. We used Nick and John from Helm, who helped us with all the UX testing and helping us realize our first version of City Dining Cards. If we would have gone to market with it, would have been a huge, colossal failure. So they did all this testing. We had this idea that the restaurants would be organized by they'd be presented to you based on what restaurants your friends like on Facebook. Seemingly a good idea. In testing, it completely fell flat. So we had to rework all that stuff. So what's out there now is the first version of City Dining Cards. It's in a week there'll be a new update that comes out with push notifications and geofencing built in. You'll be able to log in with your phone number, and you don't need a Facebook account. It is for iPhone only right now, and Android's coming out along with a completely new and reimagined version of City Dining Cards that really focuses on building a community of users and restaurateurs. So the second round of funding, we just raised $2 million, and that really is going to allow us to build a great project team. So our project team is together, and it's a hybrid of internal designers, project managers, operations people, and I'm on that team, combined with the guys from Argyle, the guys from Helm. So Argyle doing technology development, Helm doing UI UX stuff, and then we have a acquisition and retention specialist. His name's Jeremy Olson, and Jeremy lives in San Francisco. So that is our team that's going to be building the V2 of City Dining Cards.
So when we had Dan Pentworthy, who works at Ram Capital, VC firm in Buffalo, I remember he said, we're talking about, I asked him, why would you invest in an entrepreneur? And he mentioned qualities like, tenacity, understanding of the product, and the biggest thing was like kind of like grit, like just somebody who wouldn't give up. And I remember he mentioned you, and he said Rand Capital did not invest in Series A, and he was disappointed that he didn't. So I want to know what you said, or how can you get that reaction from a VC who didn't invest, but it's still in his mind. He said, "Wow, I missed the deal," and I think he invested in the Series B. So, what advice can you give somebody pitching, angel investor or venture capitalist, to get them to remember you?
Well, if you're really cocky, you can tell them it's going to cost them a lot more money the second time than it will the first time.
Is that what you told him?
No, I just tease them about that now. But so the two lead investors in the new round, $2 million round, were Rand Capital, and then $500,000 in NZA was $500,000. And so I think, sometimes, just like anything in life, you have to have it has to be like the right place, right time, and sometimes due to other circumstances, it's not the right time. I think what you want to leave the investor with is if they say no. And it's okay to get a quick no. No's are okay. It's really frustrating when it's a long, drawn-out no. But you get a quick no. With Rand, and I think the first time it was like, hey, this isn't right for us now, but I'm sure it'll be one of those times when we kick ourselves for not investing in you. And I heard that from them the first time, and I heard that from a lot of other people this time, people who, based on their previous investments or their peer group should have maybe considered it, or did consider but didn't invest in City Dining Cards in Series B. So people in early stage companies, or investors invest in people, and I've always been super transparent, super honest and open, and I think me and Marilyn and the rest of the leadership team at City Dining Cards were absolute maniacs with our work. We had an investor call the office the other day, and it was like Columbus Day or something, and he said, "Well, what are you guys doing here?" And Marilyn said, "Well, of course we're working." And he said, "Well, I love that about you guys, And so the point is that we have endurance, and we're in this for the long game, and I think seasoned investors can pick up on that.
What are some things that the Buffalo startup community, we heard from a few people that are doing really good things in the startup community. What are some things that we're doing well as a community, and what are some things that maybe we could do better?
So, I think one of the things that we need to do, if we're talking like smaller startups and stuff, there are a lot of big companies here, and what my hope is, what we were able to do with Blue Cross Blue Shield of getting, like the City Dining Cards and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York probably shouldn't have necessarily met. It's like a weird combination. Block Club and Blue Cross, okay, that makes sense, but City Dining Cards, why would they work with a company like us? So I think big companies can do a better job of reaching into the entrepreneurial startup community to solve their problems. And I think we also need to not be afraid to reach out to them, because big companies are full of big and small problems, but just unbelievable problems and tons of inefficiency. And I'm not just picking on Blue Cross. You look at Delaware North, Riches, the universities here, they're just, behemoth bureaucratic organizations. They need innovative thought. They need people who can move fast. But you also need to know how to play in their sandbox and appreciate the way they do business. I think that's really important. So respecting their process, respecting the fact that they're not like you, they're not like me, and that's exactly why we need each other. You need their funding and their network and their reach, or you need them to buy your product or your service. And they need your speed and innovation and talent on their team to help them compete on a local, regional, national, global level. So I think we could do a better, I think we could do a better job of that. I think what we're doing great is that we're all here, like at events like this. We have the world's largest business idea competition in Buffalo, 43 North. It's amazing. the fact that people even are talking about what a startup is, that people like Steve Case are noticing, that Startup, the PBS show, is noticing that, and the fact that we're able to attract better judges to 43 North this year, all those things are examples of what we're doing well. But I think like the low-hanging fruit in town is for companies like ours, people like us, to reach out to the big companies and be relentless in pursuing them because they're right here in our backyard, and really help to innovate them. It's a win-win for our community, the big business community, and the community as a whole.
So if I'm a startup, I'm a small business, and I have a way or a product that I'm like, man, if I could get in front of a big company, I think they'd really like this and really add value. How can I, as that small startup, show that big business that I have something valuable to bring to the table?
So first of all, you got to know who you're talking to. So, you know, in a large organization, if you are trying to pitch to the C-suite or C-level executives, you have to understand they're super busy, and their ability to engage with you for a long period of time is probably, or their patience is probably very low. But you also have to understand that you could spend a lifetime pitching to mid-level managers who have no real power or authority, and that becomes very frustrating too. So when you kind of do your research and figure out who you need to talk to, one of the great things about Buffalo is that everyone is like separated by 1 degree. So the chance of, if I just said to someone, hey, you know, could you connect me with some people you know who work at big companies? You'd be like, okay, you know. But if I said, hey, I saw that you know through LinkedIn this person, this person, this person, I'd really like a connection, and here's what I'd like you to say, and this is why I'm meeting with them, and really have your idea developed, because the other thing that happens in a small town is you only have one shot, and everyone ends up working and knowing at each other's companies, knowing everyone's business, and you don't want to get a reputation of somebody who, you know, can't follow through or is like a dreamer but not a doer, and you know, first impressions are everything. So if you do have the opportunity, so first to get the opportunity, ask someone, but be sure that you're talking to the right person, and you're tailoring your message to them based on who they are and what their position is. Know what you want from them, know what the next steps are, and never say to somebody, hey, I was just hoping we could get together to kick some ideas around, because if anyone is busy, you know, has anything better going on, they're gonna do that as opposed to meet with you. No one wants to get together and kick ideas around with you guys if they're busy, unless it's gonna help solve their problem or you're at a space like this. And I know that doesn't sound great, but it's the truth if you're trying to get in front of the person who's a decision maker who could actually help your company.
That's great advice. So leverage your network and have a clear, concise reason for meeting with them, and be ready to show them how you're adding value to their time.
Yeah, like when I had the opportunity with Blue Cross, which happened by some like weird connection, but the opportunity with Blue Cross, the problem was they're trying to bring healthy changes everything to life. They were stumbling on how to solve that. We have this network of hundreds of merchants. We can deliver a healthy discount to your members, helps make your members healthier, helps represent Blue Cross in the community, helps drive down the cost of insurance claims. This is how we're going to deliver it. This is some idea on how we'd structure the agreement. It was like a 5-slide thing, but we had like everything there. And I had also thought about this tremendously, and we had thought about it as a company. So the million questions they started firing off, high level, low level, as like a C-level person would do. They'll think big picture and then drive in and hyper-focus on the detail, and then go back up to big picture. And you need to be able to play up and down, up and down. So, you know, we were solving their problem, and we were building something that worked on our platform, that solved their problem. There's good synergy there. And the product that it ended up being and the product that it eventually will become is totally different than what we pitched. But right away, we got in with, hey, these are the guys that can help solve this problem for us. It's a pressing need.
What does the next year to 3 years look like for Black Club, for City Dining Cards, for yourself?
Okay, so for Block Club, you know, it's slow, steady growth. We really value the team, the size of the team, the way the team works, and we don't want to disrupt that. We also, you know, agency work, you don't always have to keep growing your team to just feed the beast, so we like to grow at a nice, steady clip. probably continue on that trajectory. But we have recognized that Block Club is really good team for solving problems. Obviously, we do it for clients all day long. And so for the last year, since our retreat in January or February of 2015, we have been working on a new project that, this is the first time I'm going to talk about this outside the office, a project called Block Club Labs. And Block Club Labs is going to be a fully owned subsidiary of Block Club that is actually owned by the employees. And the idea is that we're going to work on incubating a few ideas for our next company, whatever that ends up being. And we are working in 3 areas: in fundraising. So Marnie, we should talk. Fundraising, working in education, and we're also working in healthcare. And to try to solve some problems and develop products and services, but mostly products to help solve these problems for some of these big industries. So the idea is that if an idea takes off in Block Club Labs and we go out to raise capital or spin it off into its own company, the owners of the company will be the staff at Block Club. Me and Brandon as the partners in the company, but also the rest of the team. And that hopefully we'll be able over the next 10 or 20 years to spin off, a half a dozen companies, or maybe more, that end up coming, eventually a couple of them turning into some big, large companies in the area that are also not just making investors wealthy, but helping make the creative team at Block Club wealthy as well, which I know sounds self-serving, but I think it's really important that we develop wealth in this community, a community that is one of the poorest in the country, that it's not just developed in the upper echelons of Buffalo society, that it's developed in the entrepreneur class, in the creative class, in the class of people that can help solve problems that the city's facing and really help make us an incredible city for this century and the next. And so this is one way that we think we can do that, and that's just one outcome. All the ideas that we have are all in line with Block Club's mission to work with progressive, forward-thinking companies and organizations. So that's what's going on at Block Club. I'm super excited. And the first thing that will be unveiled shortly is a product that I think really could revolutionize the way not-for-profits raise funds. And then at City Dining Cards, this is where I spend like 90% of my time. So I talk about Block Club, I kind of run the business, but I really only work on Block Club a couple hours a week, and the majority of my time, like 50, 60 hours a week is spent on City Dining Cards. So with City Dining Cards, we're just getting started. We've gotten through our 3-year, I think it's like 3 years to build a business or 3 years to kill a business. Businesses are super resilient, so they don't die as fast as they could, and they take a long time to take off. So we're just getting started with City Dining Cards. We've just launched our app. We're changing the company to a completely digital company. We're working on building our platform. Our goal is to be in dozens of cities over the next couple of years with City Dining Cards. The new version of the product that we'll launch in January or February is just going to be incredible. It's going to be an awesome tool for merchants to attract and retain new and existing customers, but it's really going to focus on building a community of users that can go out and support great local restaurants in their neighborhood, wherever your neighborhood is. If you're in Buffalo, if you're on the West Coast, if you're everywhere in between. So, the hope is to scale, continue to grow City Dining Cards, grow a great tech company here in Buffalo. And I'd be lying if I said that someday I would like City Dining Cards to be acquired by a big business, a big company. I'd love it if a company like Google bought City Dining Cards and opened a Google office here. If Pittsburgh has one, why don't we have one? So the idea is eventually, if we sold City Dining Cards, that we would insist that they keep the jobs here, that we'd grow a strong international tech company here. And with City Dining Cards too, I know right now it's mainly discounts, but I need you guys to understand that the vision for the company is really all about closing the loop of not only finding food in restaurants that's an experience as pleasurable as looking through Instagram and clicking on tags and ending up on 10 users deep in some strange photos of Iceland that you just stumbled upon. That fun exploratory aspect that you feel engaged in the community before you even go to a restaurant and have a great meal. But we're looking at closing the loop with reservations, with credit card processing, with a payment solution, with point of sale integration. So city dining cards as you know it today, I think will look very, very different in 6 months and very different in 12 months.
That's some awesome plans for the future. So this is my last question for you. I ask everybody it. But if Buffalo is to succeed, it needs more of.
Okay. All right, I think it needs more of an open mind. And I think we're starting to see what can happen in Western New York when people start thinking a little bit differently. I always use this example of like 100 years ago, the things that made Buffalo great is that you had people here who were starting great companies and taking chances. And if you watch the video that 43 North put together last year, which was great, and I'm in it, reading a quote from Mark Twain that took me 500 takes. And lots of you guys are in it too, but if you watch the series, the history, it was like, once you get to 1960, we basically talk about like chicken wings and buffalo wing flavor, and then like 40 years go by and it's like, and 43 North, And so the point is that like the people who made Buffalo great, that one of the wealthiest cities in the world, one of like the most respected cities in the world, the city of light, all these great things. There were people who took chances, who had an open mind, that were not told no, or that was a bad idea, or no, that's not what you're supposed to do. If we can open our mind to what's possible and understand that an idea that someone's working on, or a point of view that someone has, while it might be different than yours or what's been done before, it isn't necessarily a bad or the wrong point of view, it's just a different point of view. That's going to make us a much more competitive city for the 21st century, allow us to compete on a global stage, seize the opportunity that we have with, being a half mile away from a major first world country and huge trading partner. And also, I think, expand the products and services that we have outside of a more insular community here onto, the global stage. So an open mind, I think, will do wonders for us as citizens of Buffalo, but also, of course, for us as business owners, too.
Awesome. I'm going to open up to questions from the audience.
Yeah, Clark.
Is the city dining car's name going to stay? Are you guys going to rebrand now that you're an app? How do you blend the physical and the virtual?
Yes, Steve Case was like, so what's about the name? It's going to stay for now.
Okay. Good answer.
Hey, how important is the community aspect going forward compared to the physical aspect of the actual dining cards, having that in the app, etc.?
So the physical cards, will never make physical cards again unless it's for an enterprise client. So like if a Blue Cross plan somewhere in the country wanted to print cards as like a thing to send to their members, we would produce them for them, obviously, as an add-on, assuming that they're on the platform first. But the card is basically shifting in the new version of the app to more of like a merchant profile. It's very limiting in its current form. Essentially what we did is we just took like a deck of cards and we like put it on a phone, and we added a few features, like you could favorite it and you could share it, and the redemption process digital and stuff, but it was like really just like the lowest, like let's get this product out there and test it and see what people like and don't like. We thought when we went digital that we were taking, and at the time, this is a great idea, it was a great idea, but this was like our big idea. It was like, if I have to buy the dining cards, there's so many barriers of entry. If it's like a physical deck, I have to go to a store, know what they are, plunk down $20, but then like on my person, take myself to a restaurant, use the dining card, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're like, well, let's make this free. Let's make this free to download, free to use for users, and we're going to start charging the merchants to participate in a per use fee. So we did that, and that was successful. but we ran into a whole host of other issues, assuming people still used the cards the same way they had for 4 years in print. So what's been really interesting over the last like 6 to 12 months, more so less, even 3 months, has been the complete reimagining of how we think about city dining cards, how people engage with the product, and like the guys at Argyle, the guys at Helm, the whole team at City Dining Cards has been so awesome at reimagining and rethinking the way people use our products.
So you see the community aspect, I guess community by interacting with the users in the next evolution or style of product.
Yeah, so one of the things that was really interesting is when Steve Case was in our office, and he's invested in Order Up, which was acquired by Groupon, which competes with like Seamless, and it's a like takeout delivery service, and Living Social. I said to him, where do you think those companies went wrong? Because if Groupon's around in a year, that will be a miracle. So they ended up, what he said is like where they really missed was on building community of users, community of merchants, and which was great to hear because that's something we had been working on. Today in a product meeting, we kind of use the analogy of like trying to build a zoo for like the animals and the people to play nice in. Whereas if you look at who we compete with, so Yelp, for example, which we used to work with in cities all around the country, and a couple years ago we were told we couldn't work with them anymore because we were starting to encroach into their space, which was like aggravating and also wonderful to hear at the same time. Yelp has done a great job in building a platform that if users like you as a merchant, the users like it and the merchants like it and it's happy. But most of the time, you get these completely unqualified people leaving reviews of small businesses. No offense if there's any like Yelper or elite people here, and some of you may be very qualified. But you leave reviews of a business, it empowers the user, it completely alienates the merchant. Okay, so that's not good because the merchants are the people who are paying for this, right? And Yelp doesn't really make much money from most merchants, if any at all. So that's not good because that really favors the user. And then you look at products like Belly and 5 Stars who we compete with in the customer loyalty tech space. Belly, based in Chicago, has raised $30 million. 5 Stars is in San Francisco out of Y Combinator. They've raised $50 million. They're very, very tech heavy, and they started out as like a team of like developers building this product, as opposed to like a small business, local business person building a product for a local business and for users. And what they allow their paying merchants to do, because they make money the same way we do, is they allow them to set the thresholds of the offers at anything they want. So the offers suck. You know, some places locally that participate in 5 Stars, you just spend $100 before you get a free cup of coffee. If you download City Dining Cards, you get a free cup of public espresso in Buffalo, and the equivalent in every city just for downloading the app. So I guess the point is that's the crappy offers alienate the users, but they empower the merchants, but that doesn't really help the merchants because no one goes in there to frequent them because it's not a good deal. So we're always balancing what's great for the merchant, what's great for the user, and if you think about that zoo, how can you get so close to the gorilla, you can put your hand on the glass, and they put their hand on the other side, but you don't really touch each other. That's what we're trying to build.
I'll just shout it out. Before you mentioned something about education and healthcare and solving problems, I may have misheard you. Can you elaborate on that?
So those are the areas that we're exploring with Block Club Labs, the kind of spin-off of Block Club, and I can't talk too much more about it right now, but that's kind of where our head is at some of the problems we're trying to solve. The first one that we think we have a great solution for is in the fundraising space, and so that's something that we'll probably be announcing in like January or February, and maybe I'll pitch it for 43 North next year.
So, sorry.
I'm sorry, what? Okay, yeah, that's first and then with you. Okay.
Sorry. So you mentioned making sure the Buffalo, I guess, resurgence, whatever you want to call it, is for everyone, and also for the creative class, the entrepreneur space. So how as entrepreneurs can we and everyone in this room make it inclusive and diverse, and I know Steve Case mentioned diversity. I think at every single stop we were at, he talked about diversity. So how can we make sure that the entrepreneur community is as open and inclusive as possible?
That's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer for that. Because I think there's okay, I've had a lot of really bad ideas, and I've had some ideas that have stuck. And I think it's really important to be in the headspace of like constantly creating and trying and working. And the longer you try at something, you know, the better you should be. It's like that 10,000 hour rule of becoming an expert at something. After 10,000 hours, you're more of an expert than you were before, which I guess makes sense. But I also think it's, for me, as someone who's had success, I want to help other people who are going to work as hard as I have, who are going to try as hard as I have. And sometimes it's some startup things anywhere, Buffalo or anywhere else. You get a bunch of people who like the idea of startups but don't have the endurance or really the ability to be a business owner or like deal with the stress of it or just don't like working hard. I find that very frustrating. And so while we want to be open and encourage people to join, I think what we want, regardless of where you come from, or you know, if you're a man or a woman or black and white or old and young or whatever, rich, poor, it doesn't matter. You need these common traits of an entrepreneur, someone who can pivot, someone who can think, someone who has endurance, someone who is hardworking, someone who knows when to quit but also is crazy enough not to quit. You know, there's like these common things that kind of, when you talk to, you know, hyper successful entrepreneurs, the things they have in common are all the same, even though they all came from very different backgrounds. So I don't know if that answers the diversity question. I think, you know, that's a broader issue for Buffalo, unfortunately, and one that, you know, again, going back to my answer of having an open mind, I think that will help solve that problem, letting more people in. But the people who do come into the entrepreneur community, you know, they need to know that, like, if they need to show up and they need to like put in their time and work hard, and then I think anyone would be welcome. I don't know if that's a good answer. I'm sorry, I just talked to that. Open mind.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, the labs thing that you're doing, so is that essentially like a skunkworks, a place where you can like try a new idea, see if it's gonna have legs and then move forward kind of thing?
I'm not familiar with Skunkworks, but it sounds like that idea, but just for the Block Club staff. So it would be the team at Block Club working on a couple ideas, incubating them, and if one seems to have legs after you get it through like a beta version, considering spinning it off into its own company. Like long term, if and this is a big if, because God knows what could happen, but if City Dining Carts were to be acquired or sell for, you know, a nice amount of money, and we were to you know, retain the company here, I'm sure after a couple of months they'd get rid of me, and like, you know, Block Club will still be there. And one of the ideas I have for Block Club is that, you know, I'd really like to Block Club to have the agency, to have Block Club Labs developing new companies and business ideas, and then, you know, I'd like Block Club to start a venture capital arm, so we can invest in great ideas, having done it ourselves, and invest in our backyard.
One more, I heard you, so thanks for coming out tonight, this is really helpful, sharing your experiences.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
So you mentioned when you first started out with Block Club and then City Dining Cards, you were having to sell to merchants without having a product yet, and actually as an entrepreneur, it seems to be a pretty common mode. What was that hook that you used in order to convince that merchant to, hey, I don't have a product yet, but you know,
So great question. So if you guys couldn't hear, was how do you essentially sell something that doesn't exist yet? You know. So I have I'm bad at many things. One of the things that I am good at has been selling. So I was a kid. I grew up in East Aurora. I had this long driveway and like a road with like 60-mile-an-hour traffic, and I had a lemonade stand, and like, you know, I'd get like $5 or $10 from my parents, ride my bike down to Tops, get like Crystal Light lemonade because it was cheap, but the generic kind from Tops, and some cookies, and then have like a lemonade stand and like, you know, make like nothing. But so I've always liked selling, and I like selling by solving problems, and I think that's the most effective way to sell. So I always look for the person's problem that we're trying to solve, and then get them to believe the vision that we're trying to do. Rough prototyping is great, and it's also important to know that not everyone you talk to is going to have the vision to understand. So you could have the same conversation with two people who have the same business, essentially, that you're trying to sell to. And if one of them is a very literal person, and they just are very black and white, and they aren't visionary, it doesn't mean they're not good at their job, because some people are excellent, you know, operators, but they're not visionary people, and most visionary people aren't good operators, you know. So if you're talking to a visionary person, the chance of them understanding is much greater. If you're talking to a literal person, an operations person, the chances of them understanding is much lower. And they're going to be the person that tells you, hey, come back in a year once the idea is developed, and that's just something you need to know. So you need to talk to more people. But I think also, if you go in and have an idea to solve their problem, and you're not asking them for like the moon and the stars because you're trying to get a bunch of money from them. It seems fair, and there's some protection in there for them. We've been successful at doing this, and you know, quite frankly, there's a problem we're going through right now at City Dining Cards is where we have this version of the product out, and we're telling people, like, hey, now you have to pay restaurant, and oh, it's going to be so much better, and oh yeah, Android's coming soon, and oh, next week you won't have to use Facebook to log in, and so I'm looking at Bernice, who's one of the regional directors for Buffalo and Pittsburgh for City Dining Cards, and you know, we were just having this conversation the other day, and what she said, and again, it goes back to what we were just talking about, is it's selling the vision of what's coming and getting people excited about it. And if you're talking to the right person, awesome, and sometimes you just have to cut your losses and say, you know what, dude, I'm gonna come back in like 6 months when this is developed, will you take a meeting with me then? And most of the time they'll respect that and say absolutely.
You ever give it away? As opposed to sell it?
It depends. I never give a service away, never do spec work, but put in enough time to show that you have the capacity to solve their problem. Product, yes. I mean, that's what sampling's all about. So I think you have to figure out a way that's, at least in the beginning, you know, right now some merchants at City Dining Cards, you know, have the choice of like, they can waive the monthly fee for the first 6 months or 3 months, or they can waive the transactional fee for the first 3 months or 6 months. What works for you? It's not totally free, but like, here's you know, here's an option to help kind of allow you to wade into the waters. But once the product, I think, is up and running, you know, I'm a big believer in like constantly like raising the rates instead of like always growing and growing and growing. Like, how can you keep raising the rates more and more, and doing a better job and going deeper with the customers you have, as opposed to trying to spread yourself super thin over so many customers at a low price. But it depends on where you are in product development, I think, too.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Patrick. That was great. I hope to see you at Startup Weekend or one of the Great 43 North events. And November 18th, it's not online yet, but you're the first to know. We're going to have both of the founders of Bach USA. Oh yeah, this is the first too. That better be online. Bach USA, great story. They're producing tablets right in Buffalo. They relocated to Buffalo, started up in New York. And it'll be the first time we'll have 3 people, myself and 2 founders. So November 18th, I don't even know if that's confirmed yet, Jessica, but hopefully it is. Thank you so much. You're welcome to stick around. If there's any food or beer left, have a great night. Oh, one other thing. November 17th, you want to?
Yeah, if you guys want to see a startup TV show, City Dining Cards, Consumer Craft Cruiser, and Public Espresso, Big Ditch Brewery, November 17th, 6:30 to 8:30. Come join us, it'll be fun.